Well, hello there and welcome to part 2 of our series, Let My People Go. My name is Justyn. I'm really glad to be with you as you're watching this today. And we're thinking about freedom. We're thinking about freedom, and we're thinking about that story in the Old Testament that we find particularly in Exodus 5 and chapter 6, where the people of God have become slaves in Egypt. They've been driven into Egypt because of the famine, but then over the years they've grown and multiplied, and Pharaoh's turned them into his slaves, and then God sends Moses to say, "Let my people go." I want to do two things in our time together today. I want to help you think about an area of your life in which maybe you need a bit more freedom. Maybe there's something that's controlling you. And then second thing I want to do, I want to put some breath in your lungs. Take a deep breath with me. Go. Okay, let's breathe in for 2, let's hold for 2, let's blow out for 4. Okay, here we go. And in, 2, hold it for 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Hope you are feeling nice and relaxed. If you breathe out longer than you breathe in, it's a nice way to slow your heart rate down and calm everything down. But you feel free, don't you? When you're in free spaces, when you're relaxed, when you're not worrying, you just can breathe. But there's lots of things in life that can control us. Sometimes they're things that are inside of us. They're controlling thoughts or controlling worries or feelings that we might have, controlling patterns or behaviors. We don't want them a lot of the time. And yet, like the Apostle Paul in Romans 7, we find ourselves going, the things I don't want to do, I end up doing. And the things I do want to do, I don't end up doing. There's just something inside of me, the law of sin and death, that just means I don't always do the things I want to do. I'm controlled by something inside of me. Often, though, these things, they've come from outside, but we've now internalized them. The number of middle-aged and older people that I've spoken to who are still driven by something that a parent said to them, or that feeling of not being good enough for somebody in their family, or maybe an experience they had as a child with a teacher or a class, and years, 10, 20, 30, 40 years later, that experience is still controlling them and still driving them. Things can happen to us over our lifetime, and we take them into the inside of us. And even though that person isn't in our world anymore, or might not even be in the world at all, that still have that level of control over us. It's become internal. Sometimes, though, there's things that are external to us, or people that are external to us, that try and control us. Now, sometimes this is good and needed. If you're a pilot, the air traffic controller will control when you take off and when you land, because they are making sure that you don't bump into any other planes. If you're driving down the motorway and a police car comes in front of you and controls and slows you down because there's been an accident, then you need to hand control to those who've got responsibility and trust that they are doing the right thing by you. But so often when other people try and control us, it's actually not good. It's not healthy, and in fact, it can become very dangerous. And if you are being controlled by another person, then you probably need to get some special help in order for you to think about what you need to do next. But if we are followers of Jesus, we can say with the Apostle Paul from Galatians, it's for freedom that Christ has set us free. But Paul then says, so stand in the freedom that you have. I think sometimes we think freedom is, we're set free from something and then it never troubles us again. But Paul calls us to stand in our freedom. Yes, we've been set free, but it's an active position. We've got to stand in the freedom we've got. That's why you'll hear people say things like, I'm a smoker that hasn't touched a cigarette for 20 years. Now that might sound strange to perhaps you or me if we've never been a smoker. Why don't you just call yourself, I don't smoke, I'm a non-smoker. But when you've been controlled by something, you realise how easy it is to be dragged back in for that thing to assert control again. And so you constantly have to stand guard that you're staying in the freedom that you have got. Before we dive into the Bible text for today, let me just give you 3 quick premises that I am working from. 3 quick things that I think are true. I think we're all controlled by something. I think some of us, the things that we're controlled by are just maybe less harmful or more socially acceptable, but each one of us is controlled by something. If you don't believe me, don't drink coffee for the next week. Don't check your social media for the next week. Next time you're in a conversation with someone and they tell you how stressed and busy they are, pretend that you're relaxed and calm. And resist that urge to prove that you're just as busy and stressed as everybody else is. Because there's lots of different things that have a hold over us, that control us. Maybe it's a workaholic. Maybe it's a need to keep up with our peers. Maybe it's a constant need to always appear as though we're doing well or we're working hard. There are so many things that try and control us. I want you to know, if you're someone that has battled and got through substance misuse, or you're battling with it at the moment, do you know, I think you're an absolute hero. But because all of us face addictions and things that control us over our lifetime. And I don't make light of it at all if you are trying to get yourself off substances, because I know how hard it would be for me to give up coffee, just a simple thing, and yet I feel like I need it. Every single one of us is controlled by something, and there's a deeper level of freedom that every single one of us can get to. It might be something really, really extreme and life-threatening, or it might be something that feels a bit mundane, but God is calling all of us to freedom. Second thing that I'm working from today is that freedom is like an onion. Now, I know, I'm quoting not the Bible here, but the donkey from Shrek, but forgive me, just come with, because actually I do think the New Testament points to this concept, but you can debate that in your groups this week. But freedom's a little bit like an onion, because, you peel away one layer. I've found in my life and in the lives of other people, you get freedom in something. Maybe it's a habit that you conquer, or maybe it's a situation that's been really painful, but you've pushed through to forgiveness and you think, yes, I have fight. It's hard work peeling onions, isn't it? It'll end in tears. I nicked that joke from our senior pastor, Johnny. Anyway, let's get back on track. You get to a point where you feel like, I've dealt with that. I've forgiven that person. I've got over the hurt. I've conquered that habit. I've moved forward. I'm so glad I'm free. And you're carrying on with your life, and then suddenly something happens. Maybe that person says something to you again. Or maybe somebody else does something that's a bit similar to what that person did, and it triggers it all up in you again. Or maybe you find yourself thinking one day, do you know what? I really just fancy a drink again. And you think, what's going on? I thought I was free. Well, you were. But the way God works, he keeps peeling away the layers. And so it may well be that you obtained a level of freedom, that you got to a level of forgiveness, you got to a level of healing, you got to a level of being delivered from something. But then as you've progressed in your journey with Jesus, he's gone, okay, now you're ready. Let's strip off the next layer. It's a well-worn saying, but it's worth repeating. God had to get the Israelites out of Egypt, but then he had to get Egypt out of the Israelites. Even the Apostle Paul says, I've not obtained everything yet. There's still more for me to go on. You see, our life as a Christian is a process. When we trust in Jesus, we're set free in that moment. But then every day we're being led into more freedom. And then finally, when we go to heaven and we see him, we will be completely free. When we trust in Jesus, we are saved, but then we are being saved every single day as we continue to walk with him. And when we see him face to face, we will be saved on that day of judgment. There's this ongoing process. And when it comes to our freedom, it's the same. God is always wanting to take each one of us deeper. Third thing that I'm working from today before we look at the Bible text is that freedom is a group sport. You know, the cry of Moses is, let my people go. And if you're wanting to go on a journey of freedom, you're going to need other people. It's great for me to pray for you while you're watching this or come to one of our large gatherings, but you know, it's even better to look somebody in the eye and say, would you pray for me that I can get past this issue? And to hear them say, of course I will. I love you. I accept you. And you know what? I struggle with things like that too. We find our freedom together. We need to help one another. Freedom is a group sport. We're all controlled by something. Freedom's like an onion. You have to keep going. There's layers and layers, and freedom is a group sport. So my message today is inspired by the 1990s hit by Dareem, Things Can Only Get Better. Don't know if you remember that. I will not sing it for you. But things can only get better. Well, anyway, my message title for today is Things Can Only Get Worse. Things can only get worse. Don't switch off. Stick with me. But it's true. When we're controlled by something, the moment we try and take back control, things get worse. I really know that there'll be people watching this, and there'll probably be women on the majority, but they will have been in a situation, or they are now in a situation, where if they try and leave the relationship they are in, they would be putting themselves in danger. Because it's an established fact that for a woman in an abusive relationship, one of the most dangerous things she can do is try and leave. The other thing is to become pregnant. Because in both of those scenarios, control is being taken out of the hands of the abuser, and so their behaviour will get worse and escalate. And if that's you, then you need to get some special help. You need to reach out either to the church office or to other agencies that you can find and get someone to help you think about how you can get to freedom and safety. If that's not you, but you're part of Renewal, you need to know there will be people in this church, and that has been their story or is their story now. And we need to pray and help and support them. Freedom is what Christ has set us free for. That's the really extreme end of the scale then when we think about abusive, controlling relationships. But you know, if we pull it back to the kind of more mundane things of life, I think I find this happening all the time. You know, you decide you're going to change something, assert some control, go for some freedom, and things get worse. Have you ever decided to go, do you know, I'm going to get on top of my sleep habits. I'm not going to watch box sets till 1 in the morning. I'm going to go to bed, going to be in bed at 9:30, and I'm there with my cup of Horlicks and I'm snuggling down, and yeah, I'm finally going to get into some good sleep rhythms, and you drift off nicely and you're having wonderful dreams, and then at 12:10, the smoke alarm decides, I need a new battery, beep, I need a new battery, beep, I need a new battery, beep, and why on this night of all nights? Or you decide, I'm going to get on top of my finances. We're going to get out of debt. We're going to get a good budget in with enough to give and enough to live. And we're going to start saving a bit for the future. And the boiler goes, ha ha, this is funny. And it blows up on you. Or maybe you're trying to get on top of your health and you take your little gym bag to work and you sit down opposite and your co-worker starts coughing and spluttering all over you and you can feel the flu descending. And you're like, the moment I try and take a step forward for freedom, things seem to get worse. Let's read our Bible passage for today from Exodus 5. Afterwards, Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Let my people go, that they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness. Pharaoh said, Who is the Lord that I should obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go. And then they said, "The God of the Hebrews has met us. Now let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God, or he may strike us with plagues or with the sword." But the king of Egypt said, "Moses and Aaron, why are you taking the people away from their labor? Get back to work." Then Pharaoh said, "Look, the people of the land are now numerous, and you are stopping them from working." That same day, Pharaoh gave this order to the slave drivers and overseers in charge of the people: "You are no longer to supply the people with straw for making bricks. Let them go and gather their own straw. But require them to make the same number of bricks as before. Don't reduce the quota. They are lazy. That is why they are crying out, 'Let us go and sacrifice to our God.' Make the work harder for the people so that they keep on working and pay no attention to lies." It's classic. It's a things can only get worse scenario. Moses goes to Pharaoh and says, "We've been slaving for you now for hundreds of years. Can we just have a week off? Just to go into the desert and have a festival to our God?" And what does Pharaoh do? He says, "Okay, I'm going to take away the straw. So not only now do you have to make the same number of bricks, but you've got to go and get the straw for yourself. If you're going to try and assert yourself, if you're going to try and stand up for your rights, if you're going to make a bid for freedom, I will make this worse for you." I think there's 3 things that we can think about that help us identify that something is controlling us or someone is controlling us. What does Pharaoh say? They are lazy. See, the problem is you. It's not that the workload is too much. No, it's you're lazy. It's not that the organisation is dysfunctional. No, you're just not resilient enough. It's not that your partner or your friend is being abusive. You're just too sensitive. The problem is you. And often when we try and stand up and make a bid for freedom, the thing that's trying to control us will make us feel like we are the problem. The second thing is the retaliation, things getting worse. Take away the straw. What is Pharaoh trying to do? He's trying to intimidate them to stop them standing up for their rights. And again, it's classic in a control situation, but it's what our enemy, the devil, does. Because he knows that all authority belongs to Jesus, and he knows that as Jesus' children, we have ultimate freedom in him. There's nothing that can stop us, and so the devil will try and intimidate us to go, "Let's make this worse. I'm going to scare you. I'm going to stop you going after that freedom, and I'm going to intimidate you to pull your neck back in and to get on with being contained." The third thing is, Pharaoh says, it's lies. When something's controlling us, it will tell us that the future can never be better. Pay no attention to lies. Don't let this Moses fool you. There is no week off and festival in the desert. There is no God that's going to come and help you. There is no relationship where you'll be valued. Don't dream of a workplace where you're treated with respect and valued. That's not out there for you. Don't think about a relationship where you're free to be yourself, or a church or a group where you can think for yourself. No, you're not going to find it. It's lies. It's not out there. And controlling environments and people make us think that we're the problem. They will punish us. Things will get worse when we try to make it better, and they'll try to make us believe that things can never be different. And for a moment with the Israelites, it works. We read in Exodus 5 verse 19, the Israelite overseers realized that they were in trouble when they were told, "You are not to reduce the number of bricks required of you for each day." When they left Pharaoh, they found Moses and Aaron waiting to meet them. And they said, "May the Lord look on you and judge you. You have made us obnoxious to Pharaoh and his officials and have put a sword in their hand to kill us." It works. The intimidation works. So, If I draw you right back to the beginning, I said there's two things that I wanted us to do today. I wanted us to think about something in our life, a situation, a person, an event, a substance, a thing, an environment that is controlling us. I wonder if you've been able to identify anything. And then second thing I said I wanted to do was put some breath in your lungs. Take a deep breath with me again. We're nearly at the end. You're getting there. Well done. Things will get better. Trust me, they will. Let's read chapter 6. And then the Lord said to Moses, "Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. Because of my mighty hand, he will let them go. Because of my mighty hand, he will drive them out of his country." God also said to Moses, "I am the Lord. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob as God Almighty. But by my name, the Lord, I did not make myself fully known to them. I also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, where they resided as foreigners. Moreover, I have heard the groaning of the Israelites, whom the Egyptians are enslaving, and I have remembered my covenant." In verse 7, he says, "I will take you as my own people, and I will be your God." Verse 9, Moses reported this to the Israelites, but they did not listen to him because of their discouragement and harsh labour. So after Moses and Aaron have gone to Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go," and suddenly things have got worse, then God speaks again. And he says, "Listen, this is who I am. And actually, it's not going to be your own doing. It's going to be my mighty hand that sets you free." You know, the moment we take a stand for freedom and we say, I'm going to get on top of this. This is going to be the first Christmas where we don't go into debt. This is going to be the first Christmas where I don't get pulled by my work colleagues and end up drinking too much. Or 2023, I'm going to make some changes to my life and step out of environments and relationships that are tearing me down. And the first thing that we need to do is, if that's what we're going to go for, then we need to remember who God is. God comes in and says, "Listen, when you're controlled, you forget who I am, but this is who I am, and it is my mighty hand that is going to set you free." And then he says something astonishing to Moses. He says, "Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they knew me, but not like this generation will know me. I'm going to make myself fully known." As we move forward in our freedom, we know more and more of God as he calls us deeper. So when we've found an area of our life that we want to go after more freedom in, we need to remember who God is and remember who we are in him. But I love that little saying at the end of verse 9. They didn't listen because of their discouragement and harsh labour. Well, that's a strange saying to love. But in the Hebrew it says they could not listen because of their shortness of breath. They were so worked up. They were so anxious. They were so controlled and manipulated and pushed down that they just couldn't catch their breath. Have you got situations in your life where the moment you think of them, you go, oh, your chest goes tight? Or interactions with other people where you find yourself struggling to think and to catch your breath, and you start to get worked up and tight. And then compare that to situations where you can go, oh, I'm free. Oh, I can be myself. Oh, I can relax. What we need to do today, when we've discovered that something or someone is controlling us, is remember who God is and then allow him to put some breath back in your lungs. You know, you might not be able to resolve this situation by the time I finish this message. In fact, you might not be able to fix it by tomorrow. In fact, the last thing I want you to do is to go from this message in a panic and go, right, I've got to break free. No, stop. Calm. Breathe. Relax. God has got it in control. And you'll need to talk to other people. And you'll need to get help and input around you. And you'll need others to be praying for you and giving you wisdom and cheering you on and supporting you and holding you accountable and being in your corner. But first you need to breathe again. The breath of God. Going, okay, let's take the anxiety out of the situation. Let's take the panic out. let's remind ourselves who God is and who we are in him before we confront the thing that's controlling us. This is who God is. This is who I am. Be still and know that I am God. Let me pray for you, for the breath of God to come into you and give you the life and the energy and the courage you need to allow him to peel back another layer in your life, to lead you to deeper freedom and to see those things that are controlling us be gone forever so that we can be free in him. I'm going to pray for you now, but maybe you want to just close your eyes and do some deep breathing as a sign that the Spirit of God is breathing life and freedom into you right now. So Jesus, I thank you that you died for our freedom. And Lord, each one of us can be controlled by so many different things. Maybe they're thoughts we have. Maybe they're foods or drinks or substances we rely on. Maybe they're attitudes and things other people have put on us. Maybe it's a very real and very dangerous other person. Maybe it's a difficult environment or situation. But God, I pray each one of us now would be able to breathe in your life-giving Spirit, to have the wisdom, the courage and the tenacity to say, it is for freedom that Christ has set me free. And I pray that next week we're freer than we are today, that next month we know more of you than we do today, that next year we will be freer than we could ever imagine as we continue to walk with you as you lead us into freedom. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you for joining us for our message. If there was something that resonated with you, or you want to explore a little bit more about Jesus, then go to renewalcc.com/next steps. You can fill out the form there and we can connect with you. Also, if you have a question for the team or you just want to say hello, then you can get in contact with us at hello@renewalcc.com and one of the team will be in touch with you. Also, we want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can also go to renewalcc.com/media where you can find our Spotify and Apple podcast channels, where you can find all our messages and all our online content, and there's a new episode being released every Monday. Finally, if you like the work that we do, you can also donate to Renewal. If you go to renewalcc.com/give, you can find all the ways in which you can give into the life of Renewal. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.